Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon. I hope you all had a wonderful lunch. I was told that, or at least a lot of people say that the food in Hilton PJ is really good. So it really shows that, the food was really good, yeah? Because, it's now 2:30, so we will take about 1 hour and 20 minutes. We will still keep to the duration of the talk. So I'd like to introduce formally the 4 panelists that we have on stage. Firstly, Encik Muhammad Rizwan Abdul Aziz. He is the CEO of Sedania Asalam Capital, Malaysia. Encik Rizwan has 20 years of commercially driven regulatory compliance and technology experience in Malaysia and Asia Pacific. He is currently the Chief Executive Officer of Sedania Asalam Capital Sdn Bhd, a patented financial technology solution provider that utilizes mobile airtime as one of the commodities for Islamic funding with over 21 financial institutions in Malaysia. Prior to this role, he co-founded RHT Compliance Solution in 2013, the first and only integrated commercial outfit providing legal, governance, and financial services regulatory compliance solutions for business-oriented regulatory advice, solution consultancy to banks, remittance company, fund management entities, broker-dealers, both equity and derivatives, as well as sovereign wealth managers on regulatory requirements, compliance, risk management, licensing, business viability, and practical implementation of Fintech and regulatory license technology. We are very happy to have Encik Rizwan with us as one of the panelists. Secondly, I'll introduce Encik Adam Dahlan. Encik Adam is the head of compliance of Pay Halal. As the pioneering team member of Pay Halal, Adam looks into compliance. He brings with him over 20 years of experience in across industries, serving regional and international MNCs. In 2012, he launched cab hailing application with the Prime Minister of Malaysia and developed business and sales functions within the organizations he served. He plays a leading role in Pay Halal, and he believes Pay Halal is the solution that must be served to all Muslims around the world. Thank you, Encik Adam, for being here today. And we have Madam Joanne. Madam Joanne Enrique is the Chief Executive Officer of Actis Ventures, a conglomerate of companies that builds and operates Islamic crowdfunding platform that co-funds for investment for the financing of developers that build both low-cost and subsidized housing infrastructure in Indonesia, and B, crowdfunds for various sadaqah initiatives. Etiscrowd.com has over 20,000 crowd and investors from over 25 countries and continues to grow with the vision to empower the crowd in profiting by means of impact investing and the ability to circulate wealth in an effective, transparent, and sustainable fashion. Joanne came to Malaysia from the United States of America 3 years ago, together with her 3 children. She took her second master's in Islamic finance practice while at the end of her doctoral journey in business administration, and her children in Islamic Montessori. She has worked for various multinational companies in the United States and consulted for companies in the Silicon Valley for financial technologies, hardware contract manufacturing, and software development. Her passion is advocacy for women and children. Thank you so much, Joanne. And later on, when we have Mr. Rene with us, I shall introduce him. All right? So, to start the session, I'd like to just throw the question. What got you interested in Fintech? Maybe I can ask Madam Rene to start first.
Assalamualaikum everyone. So it's an honor to be in the panel. Thank you for inviting Ethis and having me on panel to the organizers of ASAS. So to the question of how I got into financial technologies, my journey is not very straightforward. It's slightly roundabout. So I started my career in the US around financial technologies. And then I converted to Islam, and then I realized that my life was fully centered and entrenched in what is forbidden. So my life was around riba and garar. So I realized this is not something that I can do as a Muslim. I went to Malaysia and studied Islamic finance in INSIF. And then there I found Ethis Ventures, which was explained. Basically, makes and operates crowdfunding platforms with the objective of basically halal profit. And eventually now we are also doing and assisting in the circulation of wealth through the various forms of sadaqah. So it started in Singapore, where my founder, Omar Munshi, had a problem in his lap where there was a group of people who had money and wanted to basically find a source of their, a source to put in where they can profit in a halal way. Hence, the story of Ethis Ventures began, and now we are here.
Thank you so much, Madam Joanne. What about you, Encik Adam? What got you into fintech?
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And thank you, Asas, for inviting Pay Halal to this auspicious event. I think where we all started with Pay Halal was when we had the founders had deep insight into the payment systems, and looking at how fintech actually started many years ago in the form of rewards, point systems, and then it moves into online banking. So that's when we looked at it and we said, hey, there must be a methodology to help the unbanked and the underserved to move into a platform where they are able to make transactions online with surety and free from riba. So that's when we put together the team, and we found that there is this missing gap, and that's how Pay Halal was developed. And it's purely developed based on the ideology of building not just a payment system, but a complete ecosystem of Sharia principled payment methodologies. So that's how we got Sirat process in place.
Okay, so you mentioned about coming up with a team. So I'd like to throw this question to Encik Rizwan. Okay, your company, you serve 20 over institution in Malaysia, over 300,000 transaction worth 25 billion ringgit Malaysia. So with such a huge responsibility per se, how difficult, or what are some of the challenges that you face in trying to pull together a skilled team?
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very interesting question. Pulling capable teams is always, I think, a problem for a lot of people. First and foremost, what we have been doing, and inshallah we'll continue to do, is get everybody on the same boat. What we mean by that is, whenever we do something, the first thing that we need to do is to create value. Value means it's not just for us. We need to identify the stakeholders, and then we create value for everybody. And secondly is, the reward must also be given to the employee. They must be happy, and I'm not talking just about giving money to them. What we do in our company is, everybody is an entrepreneur. Anybody who bring in business and make it profitable, the profit will be shared with them. So everybody is motivated to bring in whatever business that they can and work and make it profitable. And so far, alhamdulillah, we have given back to them directly in terms of whatever contribution that they bring to the company. So there's no double standard. It's not only just business coming via me or via the senior management, but they can also bring business. We don't really, and surprisingly, alhamdulillah, this I learned from a non-Muslim. I work with an Australian bank, and this particular Australian bank actually implemented this, and I actually benefited from this kind of model. And from then on, I vow to myself that if I ever have a company, I will do exactly the same. And alhamdulillah, that's exactly what I'm doing today. So that's so far our journey in terms of doing that.
Yes, Madam Joanne, you'd like to add to that?
Yes, so I just wanted to share ours because it's slightly different because we're a startup. So I started with a company a little over a year ago, and they had just moved from Singapore. And I started as an intern with my CEO asking me, what are you doing here? The opening is for an intern. I said, well, I see the value in what you're trying to do. I see the value that with financial technologies, you will be able to spread Islamic finance and its objectives to basically have halal profit and circulate wealth. So he said, okay, you're hired. So ours is very different because for us, we're mostly interns that started. Even now, my team is made up of students as well, all with the same value set that yes, we have a higher purpose, and we are all advocates of Islamic finance, and we wanted to make it work through the Islamic financial technologies through crowdfunding, basically. Every day, like a startup, we face many, many challenges because we are dealing with people's money. We don't have the structures of a bank, but we are putting in the structures as best as we can. But the good thing is we are nimble, so we can address everything very quickly and speedily without having to go through the bureaucracy that most big organizations are faced with. So having a team of very young, passionate people, of course, is really something I have to, as the oldest in the company, something that I have to address every day. So then we get training from people who are experts in the field who also want to support us. But we started off with the founders, and then we built the team from ground up. And then as a startup, of course, you cannot afford the most expensive COO or the most expensive CEO. So this is how we are forming our teams.
All right. Well, I see Mr. Rene is here. So perhaps I could quickly introduce him while he takes his seat. Yeah, thank you, Madam Joanne, for your answer. Okay, so I'll introduce Rene. So Mr. Rene Bernard, thank you for making that journey here. The Kuala Lumpur traffic can be really horrible at times, yeah. Okay, Mr. Rene is the CEO and co-founder of LuxTech, powered by NEM, and president of the Access Blockchain Association Malaysia. He is an international technopreneur since 2002, coming from e-commerce and cybersecurity. Today, he focuses on blockchain technology, its adoption, and integration. Rene regularly shares his insight and views about the blockchain at various local and global events. Further, he educates students as well as lecturers and lectures in Malaysia. He educates students as well as lectures in Malaysia as part of Access Blockchain Association's agenda. So thank you so much, Mr. Rene, for being here today. So earlier on, we were just talking about how difficult it is, or what are some of the challenges that companies, like the four of you are facing when it comes to employing and hiring and getting skilled team into the organization. So maybe you can add to that.
Yes, good afternoon and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I apologize for my late arrival. Thank you for this question. I would like to say that about talents, we face this problem here in Malaysia, but it's not only Malaysia facing this issue, even the region or the world. especially about blockchain technology, about fintech, and about general innovative technologies, and then linking this with Sharia experts, it's very hard to find talents into this direction. So how we do it, or what's our approach, is that we go to universities, cooperate with the lecturers, offer to do workshops, and offer then to students who show certain interest or let's say, the spark, the fire to these students, we offer industrial trainings, we offer internships, we offer strategic partnerships to the universities. So we go there where the talent is formed, support forging this talent, so that later, in a year or two, we can harvest.
All right, thank you. I was just having a conversation with actually my brother, who is also one of the speakers and moderators here. And he was saying it's so challenging because it brings together Fin, which is the financial aspect, Tech, which is the technology aspect, and then the Sharia side. So it's very challenging to have this, this three angles coming together. But I believe with events such as this, it creates more awareness, and people will be more receptive to such ideas. Okay, so moving on, I'd like to also ask, maybe to Encik Adam, how do you think that investors are looking towards fintech companies? How open are they in funding a fintech company?
A very interesting question, and a question which I think my team at Pay Halal would have a very good learning experience through this whole process. I mean, earlier you point out that, before I touched on that, the investors, to move that journey from, rather not from, but to move the journey with fintech and technology and Sharia, that skill set I share it together with Renee. It has been, it's not just probably just for fintech, but even for any other industry, particularly at this time of the year where people are holding on till next year. But the point here is to get these talents and for investors to be comfortable with you, it is really the team that they are looking at. And Alhamdulillah, the model that Pay Halal took was that everybody in the team must have the shared objective, must have the same objective, which is to serve the Muslims. And by providing a platform that is clear and concise and secure. So when we met with investors, I mean, I can't divulge much, but we had a fair education learning in terms of sharing the thought process, sharing the intentions, and sharing with them what we eventually want to achieve by having an ecosystem that is not just payments, but patuh Sharia. So, but I think with what's happening with the banks today, they have moved from traditional to now digital, and advancing further into technology to embrace technology. So they have started to see that this trend they have to take. Likewise for investors, they have shared the same mind view. They have opened up their minds, and again I'm just so happy to share that the journey that Pay Halal took to talk to various investors have now reaped our fruits of labor. And we have now been in pursuit with one of the largest MNC in Malaysia that handles Islamic, as an Islamic institution to support our journey. And they see it together with us. So the point I'm trying to make here is investors are now, like it or not, having to look into that direction. They have to keep up with the times, and Alhamdulillah, they see that fintech with Sharia is really the way to go.
So it's interesting that an MNC has the belief in your Pay Halal platform. Interesting, very good. Encik Rizwan, what about you? How has it been for Assalam? capital when it comes
It's,
to investors?
Thank you. That's very interesting question. We have been very fortunate because we were acquired by a listed company in June. Have quite amount of money that was given to us to expand our business, and now we expand the philosophy of this. Very simple. What we do is we are now starting to acquire a company. That's one thing that we do. We are starting to look into not necessarily Muslim-owned or only for Islamic finance, because our philosophy is we are Muslim, the other part, whoever those non-Muslim are potential Muslim. So when we look at that, actually the entire market, the entire world is our market. And we are hoping that with whatever that we have through technology, the features of mu'amalat will make a lot of other people believe that it is not just a matter of halal or haram, but this is something that would make life much better, either from a material perspective or spiritual perspective. But we are not going to announce that a lot of our product are Sharia compliant or whatnot, but we highlighted more of the features, the fairness, the transparency, the compassion that is in the transaction, although it is driven by technology, but it serves humanity. I'm sure you know in Surah Al-Fatiha, Islam is, Allah is Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. It is for the entire universe, it's not just for Muslim. So that's why we take that philosophy and say that, okay, this is something that we should adopt, because if we limit ourselves just for Muslim, we are creating a boundaries between us and the non-Muslim. Every single non-Muslim is a potential Muslim. If we think like that, we have no enemies. Everybody is our friend. So that's why we pursue that philosophy. We look at what value can we bring onto the table. And if you go to our office in Kelana Jaya, you will see a lot of non-Muslim as our staff. Some of them cover their aurat, some doesn't. It doesn't matter. Okay, as long as we Muslim know what to do and do what is necessary, because we believe that if we show good akhlaq, inshallah, everybody will be a Muslim. So that's how we look at it.
Thank you. So I'm going to throw this question to Mr. Rene because I believe the two, Joanne and Cik Rizwan, it's somewhat like a crowdfunding, sourcing for funders.
Not really.
Not really. Okay. But okay, maybe we'll go deeper into that later. But I just feel that for Mr. Rene, yours is in blockchain technology. So how do you convince investors, if you have done so? How do you convince investors to, because you can't really see, blockchain technology. And I think when I was introduced to this concept a year ago, it took me some time to really understand what goes behind blockchain technology. So what was the journey like for you when it comes to pitching your ideas and trying to get funders to invest?
Yes, good point. So let me tell you that in the startup world, it's always about doing a meaningful service or create a meaningful project to solve some problem with your solution, which you ideally productize so that you can sell it to be a sustainable little ecosystem. And every funder wants to know what problem of the world do you solve? Who are the stakeholders, or who are your customers? Who is actually the person who will pay for this service, who benefits from this? And now there are many startup businesses around the world. This ecosystem is growing bigger and bigger, and investors have a hard time to choose where to lay their eggs, or how to say, where to invest into. And if you have a valid value proposition, your business is a holistic business touching the real pain points of businesses or of consumers, and then you use an innovative technology to do what you want to do. That's the combination that you can't just have a dream, a product, what you want to sell, which is not innovative, not new, not interesting, yes? And on the other side, you can't only have a cool technology, which you understand, and it's a really nice technology, but what does it solve? What can we do with it? Yeah? The combination of these two, having the right tool, the right technology, the right knowledge, or the right team, with the right people, with this together, and your holistic startup package, problem, solution, product, us in the middle, with the cool tech. When I package like this, the investors start to listen. And I even had one investor who said, don't show me the slides. I don't want to see them. It's enough. What you're telling me, I understand. I really love it. Let's meet up again next week and sign some papers. It can work that way.
The deal is sealed.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah, yes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Rene. I'll move on to Madam Joanne. You're both in Malaysia, serving Malaysia and Singapore. When we look into competitors, yeah, especially with many fintech companies coming up now, how do you see competition, within Malaysia and Singapore, even globally? Do you see that as a threat? Do you see that as an opportunity to collaborate? And there was also a question earlier on I saw. The question was, do you regard the banks as a competitor as well, for example?
Okay.
Yeah, so
very controversial. All right, so let's first scope. So our area is basically Islamic financial technologies, and so it's quite niche. We do serve both the Islamic, because ethics is ethical and Islamic investment. We do encourage non-Muslims to invest. So that's basically our space. My CEO, Omar Munshi, is also the founder of Islamic Fintech Alliance. So IFT, he's the chairman and founder of this, because we believe that for us to basically break through the walls of being able to push forward Islamic finance through technology, around crowdfunding or whatever it takes to get that to the crowd, takes a lot of people. So it's not a matter of competition, it's a matter of collaboration. We're very little in that space. And so we have to join forces to be able to push this forward. Us in particular, we are the only ones who have the license in Malaysia to operate as a peer-to-peer Islamic. So in that sense, there's really no competition at all. But we are also in licensing in Dubai, in Brunei, in Bahrain, and all over else. I mean, it's very much early on in the process for you to be fearful of competition. I believe it's a matter of collaboration. As for the banks, we don't feel that we are disrupting the banks' functions. We feel that we are enhancing and addressing other concerns that are very different from theirs. We are partnering with many banks in our future endeavors for Sadaqah. So we are the bank's friends.
yeah, so it's very much complementing the banks.
That's how we view it.
Okay, all right. Encik Adam, with regard to competition, Pay Halal, may have a larger pool of competitors around you. So how do you see competition for Pay Halal and moving forward? Is there any chance of collaborating?
First things first, Fintech is an enabler now. And for us, we don't look at it as competition. I totally agree with what Sister Mariam was saying. We payment systems is something which will go on and is needed by almost any other industry. So what we have done here at Pay Halal was to create it into a platform, and it's an ecosystem which supports collaborations. And how we do that is first ensuring that the internal bells and whistles are Sharia compliant. Number two, we have a standard process, and we call this process the Sirat process. And thirdly, we purely promote the idea of Islamic innovation, because we started up as a startup. So we saw the technology challenges and we overcome it. So we prepared it such that, okay, let's not see ourselves as a disruptor, but we want to see ourselves as enablers, and enabling our platform to talk to more of such fintech providers. And to work closely with the banks is something which we say, hey, that's something that we need to do. And of course, at the end of the day, it is an ecosystem. So so much so, moving traditional to digital, that is going to happen anyways. So, our team, headed by Encik Selvan, he had a very creative way of ensuring that this entire ecosystem that we have built will be able to support any innovation. And in fact, for that matter, Pay Halal is now developing our own incubators to support and to encourage more Islamic fintech innovations to be part of the ecosystem and to offer it out to the ummah. And rightly pointed by our brother Rizwan over here, it is not about just serving Muslims. It goes beyond that. And I like to always say this to myself: Hablum minan nas and hablum min Allah. At the end of the day, we just have to do good to everyone, right?
All right, thank you, Encik Adam. You mentioned about ecosystem. So I think in the past questions we were looking more into the challenges that you face in terms of financing, in terms of coming up with a skilled team. So let's look into the ecosystem out there. I want to pose this question to Encik Rizwan. The four companies here has been around, yeah. And what was the experience like when it comes to the ecosystem dealing with, for example, Bank Negara Malaysia, the Securities Commission of Malaysia, or even SSM? What are some of the challenges you face, and whether or not it supports the development of fintech industry in Malaysia, and what would make it even easier or more palatable for other technopreneurs to venture into fintech?
Alhamdulillah, that's a good question, because I started my career as a regulator. I was in SC, a short stint in Bank Negara, and I was with the stock exchange for total about 10 years plus. And then I was in investment bank for another 10 years. So regulators, if you look at it, in Malaysia, it's quite unique because we have two main regulators. As far as financial is concerned, we have Bank Negara, we have SC. And both have adopted a different approach, but a similar goal, where Bank Negara has the sandbox framework, and SC has what we call affinity community. Okay, and I was very lucky because I get involved in a very much early stage in terms of creating these two vehicles or platform that the regulators are doing, and hence I know a lot of the decision makers in these two organizations. And what I can say is, which is probably going to be something that a lot of people will not agree, is regulators are doing their best in terms of facilitating fintech. Yeah, they are doing their best, hence the reason why we have sandbox, we have affinity. If you look at around the world, a lot of countries also have the same thing. And if you look at the achievement of Malaysia, Bank Negara has already approved 6 companies under the sandbox. Okay, other countries, if you're talking about Asia Pacific, not as many. SC has approved 12, including Atis Venture. Okay, 6 for equity crowdfunding and 6 for P2P lending. So if you look at the progress done by Malaysia, the regulators have opened the door in terms of whatever you want to do from a fintech perspective, you can do. The problem is, what kind of issue statement are you trying to solve? What kind of value are you trying to create? Okay, and I can share with you, the most mature fintech segment that is in Malaysia now is on a payment side. about 40% of the innovation are all on the payment side. P2P is really very, very infant, and a lot of people does not understand the intricacy of how P2P work because we are so used to the banking ways. A lot of people still pay bills by going to the bank. A lot of people still want to use internet. I don't use internet at all. I don't use laptop at all. I use my phone. Okay, and to let you know, a lot of people now are trying to do what they call digital bank, a bank in a mobile phone. In the UK, they have already approved 4. Okay, and in Europe, you will see a lot of traditional bank moving towards digitization. So the problem with financial technology in Malaysia is not the regulators, it's the mindset of a lot of stakeholders. I can share with you, if you deal with the bank, this is one of the most frustrating parties that you're going to deal with as far as fintech is concerned. When you deal with people, especially people who does not read, or people who just read headlines, these are the second most annoying people to deal with. Please, if you want to get on the wave and understand and reap the benefit, read. Read at least a book a week. Read at least 3 articles a week. Then you will understand how beneficial and how advantageous and how cost-effective financial technology is. Financial technology is nothing new. It's just new coin or new terms. Okay? The first financial technology as far as banking is concerned is our ATM machine. And then you have the CDM, and then you have internet banking and all those stuff, but nobody calls them financial technology. Okay? And now everybody is talking about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or ICO. Do you understand what you're talking about? Please read, because now you go to YouTube, you type cryptocurrency, you have hundreds of videos that can tell you what is it all about. And if somebody says to me, and this is one of the things that I prohibit in my company, nobody says, I don't know. The moment you say, I don't know, you're fired. I don't care. Because if you say, I don't know, and you have a mobile phone, you're mocking yourself. So there's no way you're going to say, I don't know. Because you don't use your mobile phone just to take photo or to surf Facebook. That's really, really what we call, I don't want to use the word tarot, okay, but, but that's really sincere. Okay? Please use this opportunity to learn, because there's so many to learn. So much knowledge floating, and a lot of people just like to read the headline and then become a keyboard warrior. It's so wasteful. So, yeah, I stop there.
All right, that is true passion, yeah? A reflection of true passion when it comes to fintech and the ecosystem within it. Mr. Rene, maybe you would like to also share your thoughts on how the future technopreneurs who would like to get into the fintech industry. How does this particular person be able to weave through this ecosystem, as Encik Rizwan mentioned, yes, read, yeah, but how are the agencies, as mentioned earlier on, Bank Negara and Securities Commission, also supporting this wannabe technopreneurs in fintech?
Yes. So first to say that for all these startup businesses or SME companies, it's an important rule: know your turf. Yes, you have to educate yourself in the field what you now endeavor to enter into. So there are many fields which are, let's say, unregulated, especially in this fintech world. Not everything is under the purview of these regulators, and it's important to know which fields are and which are not. That's the first step to do. When you when your business or your solution touches a field which is under regulators' purview, talk to them. Yes, talk to them and say, I want to do this. Can I? What's the impact? What do I need to look after? So then next things is that, especially in Malaysia, both SC and BNM are really doing well, I dare to say a good job in supporting this ecosystem, in the interested people to do business. There is even going to be a BNM hackathon on Islamic Fintech in end of January 2018, if it's yes. So I'm proud to say that I even started to advise a bit on that hackathon and help out with that. So BNM is very interested in this, and it's just about engaging with them. Then just to now wrap up this answer to your question, my business is circumventing regulation. That's a completely different topic again. So I chose to be a non-fintech blockchain startup business. Yes, not all blockchain is fintech, same as not all fintech needs to be blockchain. Yeah? It's a bit different things with a good overlap, but not necessarily. Okay, so I am a non-fintech startup, and in my field now, I'm aware of all these things around, and I try to not touch them too much.
Okay. What comes to my mind earlier on, because you say you engage a lot with students, due to your affiliation with the association. So how I'm just going to add another question to what you said. How receptive are universities?
Oh,
To
universities or university students?
Universities and university students,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so universities are very receptive and interested in this every kind of innovation technology. Like for my field of blockchain technology, that's a buzzword, this hype, what their lecturers usually don't know that much about yet, and the universities are happy for any kind of guest lecturing, workshop, sharing sessions about this topic, because they know they are shortcoming on this topic. And as the technology moves so fast, it is hard for them to catch up, updating the syllabus, and creating the courses for the students. So this is one of the fields where the universities are happy about interactions with the experts. Yes, so universities are happy, want to engage more, but the number of experts is not high enough. So and then several experts are experts because they are doing something meaningful with the technology in their own business. So talking from my own side, I'd love to engage more with universities, but the day has a limited number of hours. So, and then to the students are left behind a bit. Let's say they don't really know much about these innovative technologies. I'm keeping a bit more general, because it is not included in their courses and workshops and lectures. So then students who attend workshops, which my colleagues or me are doing, the students, we see that it is very polarized. Some of them sleeping and whatever, or leaving early, or never mind. Yeah, but then another half is interested, and then half of that half interested is even having some questions, and then the half of that, so at the end, 4 people even come to the front and want to engage more, and 3 out of those 4, I grab them and give them internships. Kind of like that. Yes. So that's something, but we need to continue this, obviously.
Yeah, continue to speak about it and talk about it. Yeah, and Cik Rizal, would you like to
I
add
just
to
want
that?
to add
Yes.
a bit. Okay. It is interesting that you said just now that fin and tech, financial and technology, in Malaysia, sad to say, financial literacy is also low. So to put together financial technology and Islamic finance, that is already 3 big unknown thing to many people. Okay, and then in Islamic finance, a lot of the terms are in Arabic. When I mention the word, say, tawarruk, for example, a lot of people like, Okay, what is that? See, so that's why a challenge is really big, because not just about technology, blockchain, all right, for example, or crowdfunding, for example, or payment system, for example. What is financial literacy? When was the first time you encountered in school or college about capital market, shares, debentures, derivative? When was the first time you really know all those stuff? So if we don't know the foundation of financial, if you go into fintech, there will be a lot of lost soul. There will be searching, and you'll be like a headless chicken. So that's why it is important for you to read. Read and ask and never stop asking. And this is then a problem, because I also sometimes teach children between 13 to 17 about financial literacy in Malaysia and in Singapore. In Malaysia, no children will come to me and ask questions, because parents in Malaysia always say, do not ask questions. That is rude. In Singapore, before I even stop talking, hands are put up. And some of the questions were mind-boggling, because they are asking me so advanced questions about financial matters. So we have a very fundamental issue in Malaysia, okay, about financial literacy, let alone talking about fintech, because that is very complicated.
Yes, thank you. I just want to add, and I'll pass it back to Madam Joanne. Having conducted a lot of workshops on financial literacy as well, whereby our participants are adults having businesses between 3 to 10 years, even that, they have problem understanding, calculating their profit margin and so on and so forth. And that is really, I think it's one of the biggest problems among a lot of our micro and small businesses in Malaysia. So yeah, very true, But before I go to the next question, where we have a question that links to what you just said about financial literacy, because the question now asks, what about ICT knowledge? Yeah, so I will go to that question later on, but I'll pass it to Madam Joanne.
Yeah, so just to add to education, one of the challenges that we face as a crowdfunding company is also to explain to people. It's amazing how in the different spectrum around the world, people who are Muslims who want to do Islamic investments, you will also have to be able to explain to them the various contracts. So for us, it's also a challenge of being able to educate our crowd. And going back to what was shared regarding education of the young, I think it is very critical as an ummah, as an Islamic ummah, that education begins very early on. So I don't know if it's a mandate of Bank Negara or SC or the Department of Education here in Malaysia to ensure that one of the things that need to be done is to be able to educate on Islamic financial literacy as well, not just. It's part and parcel of what we are trying to propagate, and having to educate the older ones. Of course, not the Sharia scholars. That's very different. But just the average Muslim of the riba, the implications of riba, the various simple contracts of why we do what we do, needs to start very early on.
Very true. Maybe while we are talking about contracts, I'll pass this question back to Madam Joanne, because there's a question here. Do you use mudarabah or wakalah bil istimar contract with investors?
It's a mixture of everything, because there's various parties. Mm-hmm. So we now we do mudarabah, we do murabaha. We have a new product that mixes istisna for murabaha, and in between that we have wakalas between the different parties. So it's a combination of a lot of contracts in one project.
Thank you. So the next question, and this is relating to what we were talking about earlier on, about financial literacy. So the question is, how much knowledge about ICT should a person from a finance background have to understand fintech and concepts like cryptocurrency and so on? Who would like to take on this question?
I can.
Yes.
Just as has been said before, everything is available online. You know, you can really search, and this is what we always say, that all of the information now has never been so available. During our time, and you'll know my age, you're going to have to go to the encyclopedia for facts. You know, now, every time you don't know anything, my son would say, let's Google it, right? He's 11 years old, and he finds all the answers of his questions instantaneously without having to go to the library. So there's no excuse for not knowing. Now, so then you get your basic knowledge of ICT very early on, very easily, very accessibly, and so it's right there. You are not asked to program via blockchain. You are not asked to do coding. All you need to do is to have a basic principles of what is there. So to be able to understand Islamic financial technologies, as has been said many times, read.
Let me just add a little bit of a perspective of what fintech is all about. What fintech, the biggest implication of fintech is it changed the mindset or the way business is being done. If you go before, without technology, all the financial institutions, for example, will push product to consumer. They will come to you and say, Mr. Rizwan, do you want this credit card, this account, that? But with fintech, what happened is this. Everything is driven by consumer. You dictate, what do you want? What do you want to have in your handphone, or your car, or your tablet, or your computer? Where do you want it to be? When do you want to have all these services? You dictate that. The moment that happens, for those service providers, especially banks, if they do not react to you, they will lose you as a consumer. Hence the reason why we have alternative funding like crowdfunding, like P2P, like equity crowdfunding, like alternative payment system, and blockchain, because all of these are not driven by institution, not driven by the incumbent, driven by us. Okay, we drive the need. So the power of us actually can be harnessed, and this is where the scary part is. If the institution like bank, I'm always using bank, okay, does not react in the right way and at the speed that it should be, they'll be gone. Okay, I've met with one of the most senior bankers in Malaysia. He sold his bank for a couple of billion. His name is still on the bank. It's blue color with some red dots. He said to me, from his perspective, bank will be gone in 5 years. So whoever works in a bank now, send your CV to me. And for your information, I don't take written CV, I take video CV. 3 minutes video CV, I want to see who's talking, and if I like your face, I'll take you. I'm joking, sorry.
Thank you, Encik Rizwan. And I'm going to touch the next question because it relates to what you just said just now. There's a question, and this is open to all the panelists. It says, in order for fintech to flourish, the regulators should not play an active role to regulate the industry. Your thoughts?
Okay, my thoughts. I don't agree to this statement. Okay. Oh, we have all the same opinion? Yes. Nice. Yes. So there needs to be a certain customer protection or end consumer protection in the market because unfortunately there are these human weaknesses and greed and fraudulent energies around, which it's the duty of the society to look after each other, and the regulators is like the embodiment of consumer protection. There are different consumer protections bodies for health, for product safety, for financial things. So there needs to be some kind of regulation. However, this regulation needs to be open for innovation, which to a remarkable extent we have.
Yes, we have to understand that the world now has no more barriers almost, yeah? So it is very important that the people in the local scenario, or here in particular BNM or SC, fulfill their role in protecting their own people. Their roles may change because the game is changing, but their role to protect the people will never change and should never change, and it should remain there, and they should adapt to the changing times to be able to fulfill their role. Because if they do not adapt, then their role will be sort of obsolete. But they will always be needed, especially in almost a borderless society.
All right. Thank you so much for that. So I guess because we have consensus among the panelists. So yes, we do need the regulators, yeah, to draw that boundary. Okay, good. I'll move on to the next question. There was a question on a QR code. Yeah, and the question now has disappeared. Yeah, there you go. What are your views on QR payment? Would it be easily accepted by consumers in Malaysia?
I will
Yeah,
take this
Jad.
one here, particularly since it affects payments. I think QR codes as payment methods, that's one of the ways that, and to take up, to see that adoption, I would like to take an example of what happened in Singapore. Dash was launched there, and using NFC as one of the methods of payments. And then when I was in Korea, I also saw that you can buy groceries on the wall in a train station using QR codes. So to see that happening, for consumers to shift towards that direction and understanding in Malaysia, I think it is not impossible, but there would be some readiness that needs to be put in place to see that happening. And I think we can see that's where some like people, Alipay has already gone down that path by providing QR codes in certain merchants where, okay, you pay for a product and you just scan for it. Then again, it works on the fundamental of a wallet. So to answer that question, we promote cashless. In fact, the government has promoted cashless society since NKEA and EPP programs before this. And with the latest DFTZ signing with Alipay has basically much enlarged this whole initiative. And since that is happening, obviously the mindsets of users and consumers are already gearing towards that direction. And like it or not, that shift will have to happen. So QR code payments is one of the qaida, and there could be many others as along the way. So inshallah, I think Malaysia would be ready for that.
Okay, so that's good news for those who are going towards QR payment. Okay, wonderful. Okay, moving on. We are still in the context of the ecosystem. So earlier on, we look into Bank Negara, or rather the regulators. But the other aspect of the ecosystem is agencies such as Cradle, Magic, Fintech Association of Malaysia, Supercharger. What do you think of the programs or the initiatives that they have carried out or have not carried out that could spur fintech industry, not just in scaling up your businesses, but also to encourage other technopreneurs in the fintech industry?
Our personal experience is with MDEC. MDEC is supporting us now in processing foreign visas for people who are not Malaysians. There's a program, I don't want to, but there will be an announcement very soon of another program that they're doing. So specific to MDEC, I think they're doing the best they can. There are several partnerships that will happen, that will be announced this month, that will basically assist people who have ideas to be able to make that happen. Just keep an eye on that. So, and there's many other GLCs and private institutions that are also pushing many sandboxes, many supports, whether it's advice, money, grant. I think there's not a lack of these things. Wave is doing that for Idea Lab. There's so many avenues to be able to push forward your idea. I think it's just a matter of really making sure that you know what you do, where you go, and really persevere on what you're trying to make happen.
Just want to add to that. The only thing that I have a comment about all this is the programs are fantastic. I am involved with almost all of that. MDAC, Magic, Teraju, Fintech Association, even I'm part of the Access in Singapore and Malaysia as well, blockchain. The only thing that is lacking is not in Bahasa Malaysia. A lot of people are not interested because it's in English. A lot of Malays especially are not interested because some of them doesn't understand what is it all about in English. So a lot of people are just looking at it, it is not related to me because I don't understand half of what it says, let alone all the jargons that's being used. Okay, so I've noticed that a lot of the events that I've attended and participating, they are mostly attended by those who are having English background kind of education, but not from the local or Malay or other languages kind of education background. So this has become, I'm not saying that it's a barrier, but it creates, if I may use this word, somewhat like a fear factor to a lot of people, because when you go and join this group or this event, everybody speaks English, everybody talks about the jargon, and they felt that they don't belong to that crowd, although the opportunities are all there. So I have been commenting about this to all these the support organization, saying that you need to have an event that would be not creating inferiority complex to other kind of not English educated kind of people. Okay, because it is quite scary. They talk, and a lot of people who doesn't look like me, but more like our fellow panelists there are speaking or organizing it. So then it intimidates a lot of people. Okay, so I hope I can pursue this and make our other organization to do that.
Yeah. Okay, it's interesting. So to those of you out there, all of you out there, put the word out. That's an opportunity. Yeah, that's an opportunity for you to come up with some kind of workshop, training, or whatnot to support the fintech industry, offering it in, in this example, Bahasa Malaysia, yeah, or Mandarin for that matter. Yeah, yes.
And to all of you out there who don't speak fluently English, don't feel intimidated. Yes. No, but about this, is the solution to foster the education of English language amongst the Malaysians? Or is the solution to do more events around the innovative technologies in Bahasa?
Yeah.
Both.
Both.
Yeah, both.
Yes, exactly that, yes.
Yes.
Because actually, when people ask me, what's so great about Malaysia? Why are you in Malaysia, so far out there? And people in Europe hardly hear about Malaysia before the unfortunate incidents which happened. So then I say, wow, Malaysia, Southeast Asia, has the big advantage that it's a country with an affordable workforce, good standard of like healthcare, infrastructure, all this, and they have a good climate, all this, and English language. Everybody there speaks English, you can do business in English, everything works well, the events are in English, wow, you get along with English. But then, this is an eye-opener, you're actually right with this. I didn't really consider that as such an important point, but yeah, true, so true.
I think on that
Yes,
note, I would like to add
Adam.
also that, that has always been one of the barriers. But I think at the end of the day, we are in this forum to talk about the technology itself. And alhamdulillah, we can see from here that there are many interested parties, and these interested parties would be able to do their part in expanding this further. And we need more of such, desires to come on board together, especially when building innovation around new technology. And I seriously hope that there'll be more of such events, such that we can talk about Islamic innovation, and that has not just started now. Islamic innovation has started many years ago, and today it's just building and moving forward.
Yes, very true. Thank you so much, Encik Adam, for that input, and also Mr. Rene. I'm going to pick one question here again. The question is cryptocurrency subject to tax?
That's a very
Yeah.
interesting
So
question,
yeah.
actually.
Okay,
Do we? Yeah.
let's get the understanding right. Cryptocurrency, okay, is really something that is going to be used for at least two purposes. One, it is, imagine this, if you don't have the money in your wallet and you switch it into a digital currency, it is called cryptocurrency. So it's a medium of exchange. So having cryptocurrency doesn't mean that you're going to be taxed. Tax is on your income. Okay, it doesn't matter whether your income is from a digital work or not digital work. As long as you have income, you will be taxed. Cryptocurrency as an investment and you get return from the investment, then you'll be taxed. So to ask whether cryptocurrency is subject to tax depend on whether it is an investment or it is a medium of exchange. So I need to understand which is which. That is because if you want to talk about what has cryptocurrency got to do with blockchain, I think you will have to attend a class with us for a day. Then you will know how does it relate from crypto to blockchain, to Bitcoin, to Ethereum, to investment, and all those things that you will listen to us for a day. So this question, the answer is just now.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm one of the participants that may want to register for your one-day training. Yeah, and we have a few hands up there also, yeah? Yeah, can I see how many people would like to have that kind of workshop? Yes. All right. Okay, so we've got our last 5 minutes. So before we close off the panel session this afternoon, looking into Fintech, entrepreneurship, and startups, I'd like to ask each and one of you, what is your feel and what do you expect with regard to Fintech and the industry from 2018 moving forward? Maybe we can start with Mr. Rene first. Yeah.
Fintech Malaysia 2018 onwards. Wow. Let's say Malaysia is on the way to go cashless, that's one thing. But all these technologies, as I mentioned, is not my main focus of work at the moment. I'm aware of this, but leave this to the other financial tech experts. So, but what I can add here is an important point. We will see more interventions of the regulators or possibly even of police forces to crack down on digital money games or other fraudulent schemes, because this is something which the many misconceptions about these new technologies bring along is that there are opportunities for fraudsters to reap quick benefits from the not knowing public. And this is one of the uneducated public who doesn't know better. They believe when somebody tells them, hey, Bitcoin, cool thing, you invest here and then returns every Saturday 5%. Yeah, like these things are still around, and now I understand more, like this English education about this is there, but unfortunately many non-English speaking Malaysians are hit by these schemes hard. So I see that 2018 and onwards we would see a bit of a cleaning of the market through some law enforcement and regulators. You don't fully agree with the schemes ripping off people?
Because digital money game sounds like gambling, and that is clearly haram.
Yeah, but you know that there is.
So I don't know
there is
how.
in Malaysia there is this what is this? These money games where people are being promised any returns on their investment, and then they bring in 5 friends and they get even a percentage of whatever other people invest. And what I see, people approaching me are mainly Malaysian approaching me with questions. Oh, Mr. Rene, this great thing, they have a so cool website, and I just sent them this money and then they return on, and I just try to educate them why not to do such things. But these money games is a very big problem, especially for the less educated, and most probably for the people who don't have the means to learn about this in English language.
Yeah, true. Yep. So, yeah, can I move on before I wrap up the whole thing? Yeah, Mr. Rene. Yes, Madam Joanne, yeah.
So that's new to me. We're in Malaysia for a reason, because this is a bed for Sharia knowledge. We have a lot of people here who know Sharia, and I think it's something that needs to be bridged into the financial space. Into the technology space. Malaysia is also known for this. So, and then the financial space altogether. So it has to be bridged properly. And I think the regulators and all of the stakeholders are trying their best to push this forward. I see, and I'm very hopeful for the future. Whether we like it or not, it's going to change. So it's a matter of how much active are we in this new era, and how much do we want to influence it in the Islamic space as well. So for those that are pushing Islamic finance, I think this is a moment that people should take advantage of, because you are no longer bound by those things that used to imprison you in a way. I mean, that used to stop you. Financial technologies is basically almost a white paper where you can create what you need to create. So let's use our knowledge in Sharia and our knowledge in finance, and come up with products that push forward equity and justice, so that we can mobilize funds for a more just society.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Joanne. Cik Adam.
Well, 2018 and above, I think Malaysia is ready to be taking on the wave of supporting, or rather embracing a cashless and a very Fintech approach to payments. And particularly for us at Pay Halal, we are ready for that, and we are gearing up to support that and support the government and all the regulators in ensuring that there is a platform that is able to connect the users from fraudsters. And the only way to do this is when regulators, together with technologists, put their minds together and work collaboratively to ensure that this is stopped. Because there are a lot of people out there who are getting abused for that. So for us, Pay Halal is ready for that. We want to support that, and what we want to stand out right now is to ensure that we provide a platform that everyone else can come on board with us and do it together and share the benefits to everyone else.
Thank you, Cik Adam. And last but certainly not least, Cik Rizwan.
Yeah, thank you. My last word is this: don't fear technology. Fintech is to increase benefit to humanity. Okay, it is not a zero-sum game. Fintech will enable you to have a bigger pie in whatever that you do. So if you are not embracing technology, please start today. Start reading, and if you do not understand, don't say, I don't know. Please ask, because there's a lot of resources, whether online or offline, that you can look at. And as you know, it is also an obligation for every Muslim to learn, because the first ayat that come down in Gua Hira is what? Is Iqra. If you don't read, you don't really understand why you are a Muslim. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you may clap. Okay, so thank you so much for this, for lending us your ears. And just to wrap up very quickly based on what has been said up here, I think what I can sum up is regulators plays a very important role in the fintech industry. Advocates of Islamic finance and Sharia should continue to speak and talk about it to educate those out there. Perhaps law enforcement should also be put in place so that we could minimize the fact that many people are being victims of such technology, because of their ignorance or their greed. And definitely last but certainly not least, as mentioned by Encik Rizwan, is to read. I think that's one of the most important takeaway. We all have to read, to continue to learn. It's a never-ending process for all of us. All right. So with that, thank you so much to Encik Rizwan, to Encik Adam, Madam Joanne, and Mr. Rene. Thank you so much for this session today. I hope it has been a very fulfilling session for all of us. Thank you. Assalamualaikum and a very good evening.